Welcome to Seeking Alpha, the podcast where we're diving deep into crypto, careers, and the chaos of modern dating. I'm Larissa Bunziak.
And I'm Lindsay Poss. Together, we're two women who somehow found themselves at the intersection of crypto Twitter, Silicon Valley, and Tinder. I'd like to start with a story.
Can I also say the bitches are back in the stew? The bitches are back in the stew.
Yes. Okay, so when I texted you about this, but I was down in Miami for Art Basel, and there was a very drunk man at a pool party. And he came.
Was it you?
No, I was not the drunk man at the pool party, actually. I was sober.
I hate it when you do that.
I know, sorry. But also I got the high score. There was an arcade and I got the high score in Miss Pac-Man for everyone there. So like
0% is that the story?
No. Get you a girl that can do it all though. But anyways, there was this really drunk man there and he came up to me and he first of all did the whole like, why are you single thing, blah, blah, blah. It was like a whole, and I was like, I don't really want to talk to you about this. But then he said like, oh, like I work in films, which like huge red flag, whatever. And then he's like, oh, do you want to be an actress? And I was like, no, I don't. And he goes, okay, here's how you do it. And gave me like a play-by-play of like, you need to get this and this. You put this on IMDb. And then once you have like 2 credits to your name, you can be an actress. And I was like, oh, that's so great. I don't want to be an actress. And then he turns to my other friend that was there too and said, did you know she wants to be an actress? And I was like, I still don't want to be an actress. And he went around and told 3 different people that I was interested in becoming an actress. So that's my new thing, apparently.
Okay, several thoughts. First of which being, I'm pretty sure I've seen guys on Hinge who are actors who have zero IMDb credits. So
he gave me the playbook.
You can be an actress if you want to.
Apparently.
You don't need those IMDb credits. Second thought is blank, like just take it back.
I know.
Blank. Third thought is the whole why are you single thing.
Yeah. Do you get asked that ever?
Always.
What's your usual answer?
That is such a stupid question because I want to be single or because I simply haven't found any guy who made me think like I need to be contractually betrothed to you for the rest of my life.
Oh.
And I don't think that's that crazy of a thing. Like I'm only 30 and to not have found somebody who I'm like, yes, I will spend the rest of my life, which is presuming I live past the average another 60 years.
That's true. Yeah. Damn. We're only a third of the way through.
I'm a child.
Yeah.
I am a child. I am in
yeah, we can't be having child brides on
to
here.
make such decisions for the rest of my life. 3 weeks ago, I didn't think that I liked Zen. Now I fucking love it.
Oh my God.
What is going to happen if I think I like somebody and go to get married to them and then 3 weeks later change my mind? You know what I'm saying?
Ooh, I kind of get it, but like, I'm not going to lie. I've never been afraid of commitment. Like, I'm always.
Is that
like,
what you're saying? I'm afraid.
No, I don't think it's that, but I just mean like someone, like I was talking to a guy very briefly and someone was like, oh, if he asked you to marry him after 2 weeks, would you? And I was like, absolutely. Why not?
This is the bitch who I have to go out with. To the clurbs.
To the club. And club we all fam. No, I don't know because like I think it's always worth the risk. Like, because this is the thing is we do have the rest of our lives. Like you never know how things are going to unfold. And so like for me, I would always rather take the risk. I'm always like, like, let's see, what's the worst that happens? It ends. So whenever my friends are like getting into new relationships and I see so many people be like, oh, you know, like almost like it's too good. Like I can't enjoy this because I know that like the good times will end. Like the honeymoon period will end. Things will get bad. And my advice is always that like relationships either keep going or they don't. That's the only 2 options you have in a relationship. And you never know when or how or if the end is going to come. So there's no sense in worrying about it. So like for me, like I'll always make the commitment and it's like, okay, we keep going until we don't. Then we figure that part out. I don't know. That part's like, it's never scared me.
I don't know if it scares me so much. It just deters me. Like I really just haven't met the right person.
Yeah.
Like I have never felt like I want to marry you, even when I've dated guys and known that there would be an end because ultimately like they did want something more serious and I didn't. I've never felt like I want to be with you for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I don't know if I like think about it in those terms though. Like I guess I don't necessarily like put the pressure of like this is the rest of my life on it. I'm like, I think this is a good person that I could keep around. Like, I don't know. I just don't feel like that. Like, it doesn't feel pressurized for me ever. Like, I don't think like, oh my God,
yeah,
this is it forever and I'm trapped or whatever. I don't know.
Fair. But like it's a trade-off time-wise still.
Yeah.
Right, though? Like, so this guy who I met in London while we were out, actually we were out for a work trip, and going out with coworkers is one of the best things ever.
Okay, that's false.
I actually mean that. When you like
So
your
crazy.
coworkers.
Yes.
When
Well,
you
yeah,
like
I was
your
going to say we need to
coworkers.
dive into that too. But anyways,
Yeah.
you met this guy.
But high level, I met this guy, and he was a texter, like one of those people who like, and I feel like this is very normal. It's just something that seems weird to me because it's not intuitive for me to be talking to somebody constantly by text. Like when I say that for over a month, the conversation didn't end because he wouldn't let it die. Like there was times where I just didn't respond because I thought the conversation was over, but like, nope. Then a good morning text with like an update on how his day is going because he was in London, obviously. So it was a couple hours ahead. And for over a month, like it went by where I was talking to him every day, like had put in this time, and then we re-met in person and not right. And so I don't know. I always think like if I had invested more time into that, like it would have been a waste.
I know that's the part I'm so bad about. Like that's what I think I've been like recently discovering is I'm at the moment in my life and career and even like family life, like interests, hobbies, whatever, I'm very time poor. I feel like I'm like so stretched. And so I do think that like as time goes on and as I realize like how little time I have currently to even be doing the things that I want to be doing, I like don't want to invest the time in building something new. Yeah. That's like, and that's been kind of a change for me. Like, I feel like my whole life I've been like very geared towards like find love or whatever. I'm such a lover girl. I'm such a weak,
no idea.
I am such a weak bitch. Like,
I had no idea.
Bullshit. Yeah, no, I'm such a lover girl. And so like learning how to like, not necessarily like turn that off, but like invest more. Like I have a beautiful community of people that like I can give and receive love from, like you being one of them, just incredible people, and like focusing on those relationships rather than like a romantic one, because I can invest my time in you and like it gives like the most beautiful return. Truly. Whereas like with dating, it's like, I keep getting fucking ghosted. So I'm like, why am I
then it's like you deliberately allocated time to this person, like messaging them, like thinking about them, like
being 10 minutes away from them.
Only for them
to ghost.
Just cut it off, and it's like so unfulfilling.
No, whereas the people who do love me would never do that.
Exactly.
So like
yeah, I don't know. The question, like, why are you single? It's so common to people who are single above a certain age, but it's so counterintuitive to me. Like, assumes that coupledom is the default.
Right.
And
that's true.
I guess, like, culturally it has become, but does it really make so much sense for it to be?
I don't know. I was in a very long-term relationship for like nearly a decade of my life. And that for me was like a big deal. Like I had an unstable family life growing up. I wanted that stability. I wanted that family structure, and I got it. And then I was like, oh shit. Like it was the right person at the time, but we grew apart after a decade and we got together so young. And then like realizing now, like how much pressure I put on myself when I was young to like find, like to chase stability in that way.
Yeah.
Whereas like as I've gotten older, like I've been able to find the stability internally has been significantly different. And I don't think like media is geared towards teaching people that. And I don't think it's just women. I think it's everyone.
Oh my God.
And so it's like it has been weird to like move that down the priority list a bit. Like it's been very strange for me because like my whole life that was like such a thing.
That's so interesting. I'm like, it's always been rock bottom on like my priority list, like not on it.
Good for you.
But since I turned 30, I feel like a switch has flipped, and like I'm more interested in it. But now I feel like I'm ready to date more seriously, and I'm like, nobody's left.
I know. Or the ones that are just ghost you. They're just up and just. I dated a guy for a year that just ghosted me. I just had someone like talking to me for 2 straight months. We were in different countries. Gone as soon as we were in the same city. I'm like, like.
Yeah,
why?
Lindsay and I both had similar experiences with London men, and all I can say is if a London guy starts texting you, run. If you're from the States and you go to a bar with coworkers and it's called a bootlegger, and you're talking to a guy and he is sending you fucking paragraphs about his family trip in India, run. Because you're going to meet him in person and it's not going to work.
That is very specific.
Well, I'm offering advice to anybody who might find themselves in this situation. It seems repeatable enough to me.
Does it? I don't.
Well, not now because they know not to be in this situation.
No, I know. I just like I don't get on the other end. Can a man needs to come on here and explain to me. Men, tell me what makes you run. The one after a year.
Matt, have you ever
shit?
ghosted
Sorry,
somebody?
just hit the mic.
Okay,
Okay, but like
Matt
how?
confirms.
Yeah, producer Matt, how long were you talking to that person before you ghosted?
I did it more in my 20s. I mean, I'm 36 now, but I'm nowadays I don't ghost anyone. But that was more like 30s, in my 20s. But I don't know.
Okay, the person that ghosted me after a year of dating was 37. So
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do that.
I do feel required to admit that I myself have ghosted a lot.
Like that's the thing.
A lot.
Yeah.
We've all been a little
Guys.
guilty of it. It sucks when it happens.
I think the context is important though, because like
Yes.
I've certainly ghosted after like, one date goes wrong or it's very
Yeah.
early on. And like, I think that everyone having closure is a myth. Like, I think that we all need to do a better job of realizing that the world is chaotic and messy and being able to pick up and move on because
Yeah.
closure is not always possible. People are complicated.
Yeah.
Thoughts are complicated. Like sometimes shit just doesn't work and we don't need to sit around and analyze why for 8 hours.
I agree.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you can just go.
Yeah.
And that's okay. So like I'm not like against it, but like for me, like being ghosted after a year of dating, odd. Like a whole year.
That's a lot.
That's
Yeah.
a lot,
But
that's a
also-
bad one.
I don't know. I had serious conversations with guys when we broke up. And then after that, the best way for me to keep my shit together and keep going was to cut them off. And so
Yeah.
they probably
There were no
could have
serious
seen-
conversations though. It was
Oh.
just gone. It's like, oh,
Yeah. Especially in your
Especially-
late 30s.
right. You would think. Like it was just, and I kept trying and like reaching out and like just not, and like not even reaching out of anger. But that's what I'm saying.
Sociopath shit.
Well, but no, and that's the other thing too, is like this other person, like ghosting after like just disappearing after like 2 months of like effort. Like we were in different time zones, different countries. Like you're calling me baby.
Yeah.
You're talking about how excited you are to see me. And then when we're in the same place, you're like, oh, I don't want it to be weird. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, it's weird now.
That's fucking weird that you clearly want a virtual AI girlfriend
I don't, yeah.
and not one in real life.
So strange.
So I often feel like when unfortunate things happen to me, men-wise, it's karma because of how badly I treated somebody else
Oh,
in an earlier life. And that's how I felt in this London situation, especially because when we were wrapping up, the one time that we saw each other when I was in London after speaking for over a month in between, I like put my head on my like did this
Mhm.
and like
on her
this-
fist, by the way, for those who are listening, like leaned
Thank
her
you.
head on her
yes,
fist.
yeah, did that and looked at him from like a different angle than I had ever before. Because again, we had only met in person twice, and he looked so freakishly similar to this guy that I used to see in college, who like I, in retrospect, treated him very not nicely and ghosted him after a year. But
I'm getting punished for your sins. What the
yeah, but so it looked like this guy, exactly like this guy, but with a curly haired wig on. So you can imagine, like, if you really want to fucking freak yourself out in the middle of a date towards the end of it when this guy's already being weird, imagine it's your ex with a curly haired wig on. Like, that will torture me for the rest of my life.
I will not be
That
doing that,
visual?
but thank you. Well, I want to go back though to the closure thing, because when you had those intense conversations with the people that you were ending it with, like, did it help you move on?
With me, I had already moved on.
That's what I can never tell. Sometimes I think it's like almost an act of love to like sit down and have like one final conversation about like, this is what went wrong. Like, these are areas we can grow. And like, I think that actually can be an act of love.
Yeah.
But I think oftentimes it like becomes this like very big emotional mess where you're like both just going in circles. And in reality, like, it just didn't work.
Yeah.
For like a myriad of probably 1,000 small reasons that are really difficult to name. And it's like better just to leave the table like feeling like neutral, like net neutral towards that person, than it is to like dive in and try to figure out exactly what went wrong and have to walk away with like some negative
Yeah.
perception of them that you maybe didn't have before.
No, I've never really had conversations like that to that magnitude. And when I say we've had like deep ending conversations, it's been more like me expressing my disinterest and moving on. And maybe that's in part, I mean, it's definitely large part out of selfishness and doing what I had to do to protect myself and feel comfortable and confident to move forward.
Yeah.
But I never sat down and like divulged exactly what the turning points were in our relationship and
Mhm.
where we could have grown or not.
Yeah, I guess that depends too. Like I said, my 10-year relationship ended, and obviously that was someone that I like
Totally
literally
different.
grew up
Totally
with.
different.
Yeah. I grew up with him, and I have like mad love and respect for that man. Like I have nothing bad to say about him. And like even like our whole relationship was definitely led with love, and even in the end it was for sure led with love. And so I think like that, like going through that experience like showed me what closure could be.
Yeah.
And it also like reminded me like if someone is truly leading with love, like it is wonderful to sit down at the table actually and be able to help each other and grow and move on. If a relationship is ending for like other reasons or like the love is lost or whatever, then I actually like I just don't think it's worth the time.
Yeah.
Like it's just a lot of emotional energy, and it's like you could just move on.
Yeah. I've definitely never been in a situation like that where it's been
Yeah, a decade,
the
dude.
accumulation
It's
of
crazy.
so much
Mhm.
intensity and love.
Yeah, it was.
Lead with lust.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. Lead with lust, not love.
Oh, I don't know. I've like never done that. I've never done that.
I'll interpret that as you will.
No, I know, but I just that like makes me nervous.
Shut up your fucking oxytocin receptors.
Oxytocin?
Yeah.
Is that the one? Wait,
Yeah.
I can't. This is the demisexual experience, okay?
Just shut him off. I don't know. Take
Never
like
works.
beta blockers, but for oxytocin, which I
thinking-
always thought was
For thinking too
oxytocin.
much?
That's how far removed I am from it. Like I don't even know how to pronounce the word.
Whatever, it's fine. But actually, I want to go back. Yeah, we can talk about dating lives all the time. But I want to go back to like going out with coworkers, actually, because that's a thing. Like, I was a very private person in my previous jobs,
Mhm.
and I like there's still things that I keep super private today.
Yeah.
And like if I'm going out with my coworkers, like I'm not drinking. If I'm going out in a work setting, I'm not drinking. When we went out in London, it's because I was around like people that I knew I was friends with outside of work, and we actually split off from the main company group.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, now I can like be myself.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like I'm always super cautious.
Yeah,
about
no,
going
that's
out.
totally fair. And you should not let loose and be 1,000% your worst.
Well, it's like a balance though, because
Yeah.
like at the same time, like expressing your personality and like bonding with people is genuinely a way to move forward in your career or to open up new connections.
Yeah.
So like, what is that balance like for you?
I am authentically myself 1,000% of the time. Like oftentimes, or debatably, oftentimes too much. So,
No, that's
but-
actually so true. You're so good about that.
well, thank you. But I can gauge how professional to be. And it's something that, as somebody who's always prioritized my career, something that's been pretty intuitive to me, like engaging to the extent that like it makes sense culturally, but also holding your own and being coherent and remembering that you're at a professional function. It's, I don't know, it's like it's strangely intuitive to me, except for times where it hasn't been.
I think that is how it works. Like
Yeah.
sometimes you go too far, of course.
Yeah,
I think
but
that happens
only
to
in
everyone.
the comfort of like coworkers who are genuinely friends.
Yeah.
And not just people who you sit beside in the office.
No, and I think everyone's comfort level is definitely different. Over the years, like I've been learning the balance between being secretive and being private for sure. And I don't want to be someone who's secretive around people because I think that leads to mistrust. Like then you're just always trying to spin a story and it looks ugly. But there are certainly ways to like be private. I guess like I spent so long being such an open book and it wound up like really hurting me. Not necessarily in my career that much, but just, I don't know, like perception wise. As I was building up a persona and a personality and all of that, like being totally open is like definitely not the way. But like finding that balance between like being someone that people know that they can trust while also like being myself has been difficult. And like you've totally seen me turn it off and on. Like when we were at the pub in London. And I had spent like the whole day like being super social and talking to people, doing all that stuff. And we were at the pub and I was just like gassed out. Like I was so tired. And then one of our company partners walked in and like I changed my whole face. And I was
Did
like,
they?
hey. Yeah, it was
I was a little busy.
no, you looked at me and you're
Oh.
like, that was unbelievable. I can't believe you just like flipped the switch.
My mind was a little busy.
Yeah.
I was turning on without.
No, that was when we were at dinner the other night at the pub when we went. It doesn't matter. But you bought me dinner. It was very cute. Thank you for that. You're like, I can't believe you just turned that on so fast. And like, I definitely do. Like, I definitely play a part in professional settings of someone who's like very outgoing and really excited to be there and like very warm. And it's like, it's not inauthentic to who I am, but I for sure like actively engage with that part of myself.
Yeah.
In a way that I don't necessarily in other settings. No.
Okay, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Mhm.
Yes, that makes sense. Also, I saw one of those guys at Emergence, and he's super hot.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah.
Less good for us because he works for.
Shh. Nope.
I'm not going to say it, but I'm going to say a dinky little.
No. Stop.
Dinky little.
Knock it off.
Dinky project. There's more than one guy who works at a dinky project.
You keep your mouth shut. See, that's the line of professionalism we're talking about.
Yeah.
Too far.
Yeah, I'd never say it. But yeah, I think being able to read people is part of the skill, and recognizing which supervisors might be a little bit more lax and like comfortable with talking about drinking and things like that versus people who are like very corporate and buttoned up and thrive on that energy. Because a lot of people do like that's how you connect with people at work is through authenticity and like recognizing that both of you are people outside of work and not just like the work that you're doing. And so it's like important in establishing bonds is like going out to like the cultural event type stuff, like happy hours and whatever.
I love that you just referred to happy hours as a cultural event.
Company cultural event. Company culture.
Like there's exhibitions at the MoMA and then there's happy hour. Cultural events. The arts.
Events that demonstrate company culture. Such
No.
as happy hours.
Such as happy hours. Yeah, I know. I actually do feel like that's a little bit more specific to like New York City too. Happy hour. Happy hour culture is like pretty big in DC as well, but I've been in remote jobs and or jobs that were more like academic environments. And truly we did not go out together. It just wasn't a thing. There was no company Christmas party, nothing like that. But it kind of worked for everyone.
Yeah.
Because it was like strictly like you were there for academia. And so like the way I communicated and moved in that environment was very different. It was great. The office was like a library. It was wonderful. I loved it.
So how did you establish like bonds? Do you feel like you established bonds with your coworkers in that way?
Definitely. So some were warmer than others. And in general, the way to establish bonds at a place like that was like more just like research oriented, like very academia heavy. For me, it was to show up, to do the work and to take initiative with things. So like what was appreciated the most was that I brought some personality into there. I was not, to be clear, a personality hire. I was a research analyst, and then I moved into director of communications. So, like, I had real duties and responsibilities.
Also the personality hire.
Yeah, but they did appreciate that, and like I think like especially in academia environments, when people struggle to communicate with the outside world, when you take that burden off their shoulders. So I was like, I'll be the one to talk to people for you. That's very appreciated. And so that's how I was able to like build up a good relationship where like they felt as if they could come to me or that we could talk together about what they wanted to get out into the world. And then they could stop thinking about it and I would go do it. And so it was like, we weren't like getting drunk together, but we were like having like really nice and kind one-to-one discussions about like interests and things that were important to the work. And that wound up being really good.
Yeah, that's fair. I think another good tactic, as you've explained, in how to form bonds like with the people around you, like whether it's coworkers or even superiors, is like just being helpful to them. Because it starts like superficially where like you're offering support in whatever they're doing that's like a priority and you're taking it off their plate, but then also like showing that you're dependable and somebody who like genuinely cares and helping is always really appreciated by others. And then it makes them like trust you and want to work with you more.
Have you ever gone too far though and then taken on a bunch of free work or like work?
Oh, fucking all the time.
Yeah, I was going to say, because that's like another thing. But to me, like, to your point about being helpful, like I think it's actually just about like listening to people. Like sometimes you don't even have to do stuff. Yeah. They just need someone to say like, I see you, I hear you.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
You can just walk away and like not do things. But like
that's true.
Generally the way that I'm able to stay like fairly private in the office is I don't do a lot of talking. I ask questions and I listen to other people and what they have going on.
Listening is such an underrated skill.
No, that's why we have a podcast where we can yap. But
because we love listening.
I know. I love listening to myself most of all.
Exactly.
That's why we're here.
I love listening to you and you love listening to me.
Yeah, exactly. How do you balance though? Because we've talked about this several times and like you are someone who goes above and beyond in your career and you're so good about like having a path and staying motivated and doing whatever it takes, even if it's developing as an addiction. How do you balance that with dating? And like, well, what kind of response do you get to like your level of ambition, I guess, when you're dating?
There are some guys who are super, super into it, like really turned on by the ambition, wanting to dominate the world thing. And then there are some guys who are not. And the ones who are not for me. And most are not. And I will not comment on whether that it makes them feel threatened or intimidated because people love to fucking speculate on why guys don't like ambitious women. I don't give a fuck because they're not for me either way. But they either are betas and just need an alpha or are also very ambitious and looking for somebody who and like to be around people who are ambitious. So I found both kinds, and obviously the non-beta kind works best, but I have jived best with guys who are equally as ambitious and work just as hard because neither of us minds when the other has to take a work call from dinner, for example, or is prioritizing something over plans we had because something comes up, because shit comes up all the fucking time, but you make it work. And like if it's a make or break needle moving opportunity that you have like during this time, like no, I'm not going to be fucking offended if we had plans to go do something. Like you need to do that for yourself because like that this opportunity like won't come again, and I need somebody that like feels the same way towards me and things that come up in my career. And so it really narrows the pool, like really narrows the pool. But also it's a trade-off that I'm willing to make because I'm not going to be less or do less towards my career and my goals because it's a hindrance towards dating and the guys who I would be a match with.
That makes sense. Well, also we should note that the reason why this podcast started is because I used to always joke that I was an alpha seeking alpha. Like I needed someone to out alpha me.
And she was on Seeking Arrangements.
Get out. No, I think that that's like all pretty accurate. And I actually like not speculating about why it might be intimidating or why men don't like ambitious women, or like why some men don't like ambitious women, because I think also like men are allowed to have their preferences. Like, if that's not your jam, it's not your jam. That's totally fine. But yeah, I will say like I was always someone who like prioritized the relationship. Like I was the one who would put the work call away for plans that we had made, or like make sure that my partner's work was like flawless, like be very supportive in that. And that wound up like really creating a rift in my long-term relationship because he wasn't asking me to do that. He actually wanted me to be more of myself and like stop worrying about that so much. And like I couldn't figure out how to not be like a caretaker. And so that wound up causing like a huge rift. So I think like I've been sort of discovering like how to actually put like my own career and my own life first. But the person that I dated for like a year would like always call that masculine. Like all the time.
Ew.
It was so odd. But yeah, it was like, I don't know. Like I feel like a lot of men that I've talked to, they think that they want an ambitious woman.
Yeah.
And then they get one and they're like, why aren't you paying attention to me? And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
So like that's my experience with like dating and talking to people is like the talk is there and the action is very different. And I truly think like that's why I get ghosted. Like I think it's like, oh, you look so good on paper.
Yeah.
And then
they're uncomfortable by it when they actually
or like I just like it's like, oh, like I can't keep like I don't know, the comparison games start maybe in some cases, like it's not always that. But I think it's like, oh, like you're like too much in some way. And I'm like, I'm not trying to be like.
Go find less. Go find less.
Yeah. Like go find less. Yeah.
Go buy a housewife on Eurowives.com.
You can say that because you're Ukrainian.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, to be clear. I am on Eurowives.
Yeah, that's actually how she got here.
I'm Lindsay's Euro wife.
Yeah,
Who's
exactly.
gone rogue.
Yeah, but I have been like learning because like I said, I was in like a 10-year relationship, so I haven't like dated that much. And I definitely have been learning like the difference between talk and behavior.
Yeah.
And it's like very clear. And honestly, like I don't think it's like intentional. I think, and I'm guilty of this too, like I think everyone lies to themselves in some capacity. I think you know what you want, you think you understand what you're going for, and then when you get it, it's not actually there for you. And instead of being honest with yourself and honest with the other person, you just have some shitty behavior or shitty action that goes along with it.
So true. I think I like brunette men, but the only serious relationships I've had are with blondes.
Yeah, me, yeah.
I
I am her most serious relationship, to be clear.
To be clear, maybe. But yeah, no, the only guys who I've seriously dated were blonde. And the only guy who I ever thought like I could actually marry was blonde. And granted, this was when I was a teenager and he was like way older and it was like a.
You're making this sound really bad. You're making this sound really bad.
Let me backpedal.
Yeah.
I'm sticking to brunettes, to be clear, as a preference. But I think I want a brunette. Perhaps I want a blonde.
I'm all about a touch of gray. It's been where I've lived for a bit
touch.
now. Yeah.
A touch.
Touch of gray. That's been where I've been living. Well, if you could give one piece of advice to people in their 20s about dating and balancing career, what would it be?
Prioritize what's important to you and go all in on that.
Mm-hmm.
But prioritize your career, not dating.
I guess for me, it would be prioritize being honest with yourself. Because I think like I should have done what you said, but I wasn't honest with myself
Yeah.
about what I wanted.
Yeah.
Not even about what I wanted, but about what would be beneficial. Like I wasn't thinking long term.
Yeah.
And I wasn't thinking like about who I wanted to be. And I
Just-
wish I would have taken the time to do that.
Yeah. Think about who you are and who you want to be and what is the delta. Like that
Yeah.
will show you what is most important for you to be focusing on in your 20s.
Mhm.
Like if who you want to be is a happily married woman with a lot of kids who is going to soccer games and helping with homework, that is great. By all means, prioritize finding your partner.
Mhm.
If you are somebody who really wants to be able to get those bags,
Yeah.
speaking in money and physical bag terms, then fucking prioritize your career. If you're
Mhm.
somebody who wants to be independent and doesn't mind being single, like prioritize your career.
Mhm.
But I think, and I guess you don't have to, like, you can go half and it's not like one over the other necessarily, but
Well,
like
it's
you
priorities.
will
It's not like
always have to make trade-offs. Like
Mhm.
even in like past, like even with this guy from London, like, I had meetings while he had like made dinner reservations for us and stuff. And I was like, that's great. But also I'm working. So
Mhm.
he was trying to like move things forward with us. And I was trying to be myself, which is,
Well, to be fair, that was also without any warning to you.
yeah.
It was
He's
like,
trying to like be cute and like make dinner reservations and things like that, knowing that I am somebody who takes work very seriously and have expressed to him that I would be working the whole time and
Yeah.
etc. And so he was really focused, or I think in love with the idea of like us being coupley and becoming something. And I was just focused on like myself and work
Mhm.
and like going with the flow and like maybe having somebody to like hang out with, which would have been nice. But
Yeah.
it did not align. And like I did end up moving a call so that I could hang out with him. And like then it was like such a mismatch that now we're never going to speak again. And I'm like, fuck, I should have fucking gotten on that call. Like I
Yeah.
shouldn't have moved that call.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think like ultimately, like what we're both kind of saying is like prioritize yourself.
Yeah.
Like take some time getting to know who you are. And when I was in my young 20s, to be clear, I had like no idea. And I still think that's like always a work in progress. But I truly do wish I had spent some more time coming up with bigger dreams or just defining the fact that I wanted to come up with bigger dreams and like getting to know the ambitious side of myself then. And I don't think everyone has that side to themselves, to your point, and I don't think everyone needs to
Yeah.
by any means. But like I think like if I could redo my young 20s, which someone would have to pay me millions of dollars to go back, I would have simply spent more time reflecting on who I was and where I wanted to be, becoming, or at least trying to become at peace with that sooner. And I think that would have helped me a lot.
Do you think there's anything that anybody could have said that would have changed your path, or were you like pretty set in your ways?
That's a difficult question to answer. So my mom died when I was 21. So like obviously that upheaval was like so life-changing.
Yeah.
And so like thought like my path was so consumed by that for a long time. I wish I would have acknowledged that more and the impact of that. And I wish I would have had some guidance from someone who went through grief when they were young.
Yeah.
I think that would have helped. But I don't know. I feel like I've always been fairly receptive to feedback. So I think like if it was someone that I trusted, I do think that someone could have said something.
But
But it's like so hard to play court.
Yeah, and you
so
were
happy.
Yeah, you were happy. So,
I
like
was.
you were
Yeah.
trying to do what you thought would make you happy.
I was
so.
doing things that were going to bring me stability at the time, and I am so grateful to the person who went on that ride with me forever.
Yeah,
that was an amazing thing for him to do, and so I don't want to take away from any of that. And I don't think either one of us made a mistake in trying to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it got you to where you are now, which is good.
Yeah, and I think like both of us are in a place of like we were together for 10 years and like very grateful for the amount that we were able to grow and be there for each other.
Yeah.
Which is really, really wonderful. And now we're in a place where like we need to do that on our own.
It's a stepping stone.
Yeah.
He was a stepping stone.
Yeah, he was more than that, but he was partially that for sure. Yeah.
In stilettos. Yeah. That's the real message here.
I mean, that's what I'm going to do going forward, but
fetish for that.
I know.
Is
There's
that
a fetish for everything. No, I'm not going to become a fetish artist unless this podcast never gets sponsors.
Yeah, pressure's on, bitches.
Yeah, I know. Please slide into my DMs with your money.
Johnson & Johnson. Hello, look at this finger.
Yeah. I know. We're just going to call out some ridiculously big name company every episode until one responds.
Casamigos isn't that big.
Love where you're going with that. All right. Shall we wrap?
We shall. Thanks,
Yay.
bitches.
Bye.